Hello, folks. This is Troy Galloway, owner of Galloway Building Services, and we are got a wonderful show we're having today. We're going to do one on commercial roofing. As most of us all know, that's one of the most expensive parts of the building. It's also the part that everything gets wet, gets damaged. It causes nothing but big grief. And what I got here with us today, Rick from Eureka Roofing, owner of Eureka Roofing. Actually, he's done a podcast with us. You can get on YouTube. It's called About the House. And we was talking more residential at that time, but today, because Rick does a lot of commercial, he is our resident expert in commercial roofing. I send him out all the time to do roofing estimates as such, because he gives the guys a good square shake on it. So we're going to go through some pictures here. We're going to talk about some different products out there, some of the pros, some of the cons, and it's just basically just going to be kind of have fun, catch all, and go through some of these crazy pictures. Some of this stuff you're not even going to believe you're seeing it. When I inspected some of it, I scratch my head and wonder, how in the world did it get this bad? But anyway, let's just jump right on here. Rick, introduce yourself if you would, please.
Hi, everybody. It's Rick Hinkson here. I'm the owner of Eureka Contracting and Roofing. Along with Troy being a Marine veteran, I'm a Navy veteran myself, so we like to stick together on these podcasts, and we're just going to walk you through some commercial roofing, different roof systems that we've got some good photos of, ones that Troy's inspected, and different ones that I've actually looked at. So we're just going to go through here and then identify what's on these roofs and give you our opinion on them and what the proper procedures are to get these roofs fixed, repaired, or replaced.
Good deal. So what we're going to also, and at the very end of the show, stay right to the very end, because we're going to have it's going to give you some offers, some specials to help you and your investment whenever you get ready to buy one of these buildings. But also, too, we're going to give you our email address. We'll give you our phone numbers, whatever information you need to get a hold of either one of us in the future. But we're going to jump right in on here on these pictures. And the first one, this is on commercial roofing. So, and this is, I got, and I'm going to tell a little bit of story about most of these as I go along. But this one right here is this actually is a building down in the inner city here. And it is, it's just a little quick history of this one. And literally, here it is, the week of Halloween, and we're putting this out. Literally, this here home or office building or warehouse or whatever it was a big restaurant at one time, owned by a mafia fella, and who was shot and killed there. And I guess they must have shot and killed his parents or his mother too, who lived next door. But we wasn't there for that. We was there for the total building inspection. But I just saw how all this shingles stuff was happening on this particular one and the storms. And I thought this was a good one here to share with you. And look at this one right here, Rick. I mean, you see it's been patched a few times and shingles missing. But I see it mostly on one side. Let me ask you, do you think that there's a storm or something caused this? Because we really didn't pick as much up on both sides as we did that one side.
I would think so. You're spread out, the way the damage is spread out there, and typically we've got a windward and leeward side of the storm comes in. It'll come very directional. Sometimes it'll hit one slope. You'll see the other slope, a little bit of damage on there, but not quite as bad as the windward side.
So do you think when you see something like this and you are a potential investor, would you put it in your budget that you think this could be repaired, or in your professional opinion, would you think it should be replaced? What would you recommend if it was your money?
If I was buying that building, I would want a new roof on it. The roof's going to protect everything you've got inside that building. If you patch over top of patches, that's what you end up with, a patch on a patch. Eventually it's going to leak. It looks terrible, for one. If you're looking for the aesthetics on your building, you want something to look good, but even the protection point of it, you've got multiple patches on this roof, all around the chimney. The flashings probably needs to get redone on there, the flashing on the parapet wall, the vents. But you've got this much damage up there, and especially an old 3-tab roof, we would highly recommend replacing the roof.
Yeah, well, now you're talking about that flashing, and then on this picture here, it really on that parapet wall, it looks like to me, we even got some flashing missing right up there closer to the peak. But I mean, when it gets this rusty on this kind of flashing on this type of parapet wall system, is there a good way of coating that, or should that just be replaced? I guess I know it also depends if you could put your finger through it.
Yeah, if you can put your finger through it, it needs to go.
Yeah. Good indication.
Yeah, that's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah.
But if that was my building, I would just dig a little deeper and replace the parapet, the flashing on the parapet and the parapet cap itself.
Really wouldn't cost a heck of a lot more, really, would it? I mean, especially if you're going to put on a shingle roof that's going to last 20 to 30 years or more, yeah.
No, it doesn't take that much, and and those are the weak spots on a roof. You want to protect those as well. But I would, if I was putting a new roof on there, I would want to put new parapet flashing on there as well.
Okay, well, that's good, and that's kind of what I was thinking too. But I realize always money is important, but because money is important, you don't want to do it but once.
You don't want to do it once, and you don't want to get all your interior completed and then have a leak.
Oh.
Get everything done on the inside, and then you have a leak from something that you try to cut a corner. Our opinion, even as a contractor and a roofing contractor, is that the roof's the most important component of your building. It protects everything inside that building, and it has to be watertight. If it's not watertight, then you're constantly fighting interior damage, along with the possibility of getting mold inside.
Oh, yeah, and that mold.
And you can avoid that by just being a little proactive instead of reactive, and go ahead and replace that while you're up there.
All right. Well, and now, so we do see some shingle roofs on a lot of our commercial buildings, but really I don't see, and maybe you do more. I don't see a whole lot on our industrial or medical buildings. More of our buildings where we have apartments, where we have 6 or more units is considered commercial, at least in our area, that it is. But
I agree.
But I did want to share that because we do see shingles, and actually we see a combinations a lot of times.
You'll see them up there, and you see them on churches too quite a bit.
Yeah.
They'll have the big church will have shingles on there.
Well, speaking of churches, that's a great leeway. Thank you for helping me out there. We're going to jump over here to Slate now, and this is an old church, and actually I think you're working on this church right now. I looked at this thing last winter, a slate roof, and of course we don't see, I want to jump down here, but I just thought that was a neat big old building. Now here's a combination we was talking about of shingles and slate, shingles on the front of it and slate for the balance of it.
And that roof also has built-up roofing on there too, the modified bit roofing. So there's 3 different kinds of roof on there.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Let's jump down here. Now here is a good picture of what slate looks like. So we don't really see a lot of slate. And where do you say, I don't even know where you can buy new slate really necessarily. I guess you can, but where would you get it at if you had, you had to replace a few pieces?
From when they're tearing down their old buildings, the guys when they tear them down, they'll salvage the bricks and the slate sometimes, and then you can pick through that. Or if you're replacing it with new, you actually have to find a mine that is down to that vein to pick out those colors. So, but if you can get some off of an old building, you're going to have a better chance of matching what you've got.
Yeah, and actually, so we got a lot of, we don't really, so the reason we don't use a lot of the slate is so this cost, it's very great stuff, but it's expensive. There's a lot of composites out there, and different types of materials that look like slate. And folks, if you want to learn more about that, check out my radio show podcast. You get on YouTube also. It's called About the House, and I got a great segments on different roofs out there and the materials. But today we're just kind of focusing just strictly upon our commercial buildings here. Well, let's just look over here to this picture right over here, and what I wanted to show it. Of course, we got the snow on the roof, and so I didn't walk that roof. But apparently, you can see why. But you see, my flashing is coming loose here, and it's green. So I guess you would assume that'd be copper.
Yeah, if it's green, it's copper. Well, got to get that patina on there.
So, what do you think of that copper flashing? I mean, other than cost inhibitive,
it's expensive, but it looks good. when you put it up there and it's been and it lasts for a long time. You see a lot of old buildings that have the copper flashing on them.
Sure is pretty, and then they go. Now I see they got that shiny stuff that stays shiny forever. What do you think about that type of material? I know it's not copper, but is it something you would recommend to get, for longevity?
I don't see anything wrong with it when when you're getting into your newer products. They've developed a lot of good new products. So we try to keep ourselves up on what's new, what's old, what works.
Yeah. Well, I tell folks, can you even get this type of material? that green looking copper that's not been weatherized.
Patina.
Yeah. Okay. It was kind of like buying blue jeans, with holes already in them. I know. I'm from old school.
Right.
That wasn't something that we bragged about. But anyway, I don't want to get off of that. But all right, so we don't see a lot of slate, but I did want to bring that up because like on a lot of our old churches or them old buildings like that we did. But I want to move over here to metal roofs because metal roofs, we have a lot of metal roofing out there anymore. And I wanted to share a little bit about what I see on some of these metal roofs. Now here's a good one right here. But I wanted to share on this metal roof all the rusted, this one here actually has got the rusted nails, but you also see the nails here, the screws, the fasteners, I should say, because they're really a different, not necessarily a nail, but they're rusted, but they come up and out. Mm-hmm. Tell the folks what causes this.
It just age and weather from an expanding, contracting. They'll wobble out that hole where those screws will get loose. On top of the screws or nails, there's a neoprene washer. A lot of times the UV rays will deteriorate that, and the thing will get brittle. And once it starts to fall apart, then your screws or nails they become loose. You've got that little bit less than 1/8 of an inch washer on there. But if the washer's gone, you've got that much of an airspace in there. Then it's moving around. Once they start to move, then it doesn't get better. You either have to replace them with bigger screws or go back, or replace the roof. But hopefully you can just replace the screws on there.
I saw one here I was up on recently, and there was a kind of the folks was kind of at all on it because it was only on the south side above the soffit. Mm-hmm. Nowhere else on the roof was it happening. Well, they had this passive solar energy. So they was creating this heat difference. You're talking about expansion and contraction,
right?
And so I just recommended in that case, just put the bigger screw like you said, but put a sealant into it, a good sealant, so when you screw it into it, mm-hmm. It has that kind of the glue at the same time,
right?
Because he didn't have to do the whole roof. And then I recommended for him to go and put sealant over every single screw head throughout the whole building. Mm-hmm. But I tell them that all the time anyway.
Well, we do that when we coat a roof, but but you still have to get them down tight.
Yeah.
It's very time consuming if you're going around putting caulk on each screw head and running them in. It's a time, very, very labor intensive project.
So you're recommending just to go ahead and just recoat it then? Is that what you're thinking? Would that be more cost effective and?
You're going to get a better roof out of it if you coat over an existing roof.
Okay.
But there's nothing wrong with replacing a few screws either. If you can get in there and just replace a handful of screws and get them bigger screws, seal them in, that makes a good roof as well.
Okay, well that's good to know. And see, it's helped you save some money there. Let's look at some other metal roofs here. Here's that good. That's a good one there. But you see, now here is one that I did down in the city. Of course, common sense says we got a jungle growing up on top of it, but and it's a different type of metal roof, So you had the standing seam, and then of course you got this. What do you call this type of galvanized roofing? What do you guys
the
call
exposed fastener?
Mm-hmm. So of course you don't want any kind of material on top of it. What do you think? I mean, tell the folks. Not just the rubbing. What else happens? What else is so caustic to that?
Well, with the tree there, with the rubbing on there and banging on it, plus when it gets a snow load on it, it's going to sit on the roof. You can see where all the leaves are gathering up on the roof. They're going to sit there absorb that moisture and just sit on the roof. And eventually something's going to wear out, something's going to leak, especially if you get some snow or ice on there with all the leaves. So just trim the trees back, trim them back, blow the roof off, and just try to maintain your roof a little bit. Get up there a couple times a year, and if you need to, just double check everything, blow it off, clean it off, and tighten things up as you go. You get a lot of more years out of your roof than you would without doing that.
Yeah, and if you have gutters and you got this, then you got another problem. Make sure you get them gutters cleaned at the same time. I know a lot of folks they just don't think about. Well, here's a good one right here. You talk about leaves on the roof, and here's wintertime.
In the wintertime, and that's exactly what we were just talking about. With all the snow on there, those leaves will freeze. Now they're sitting up there, so they're up there for a long time.
Yeah, and in this case here, I couldn't even get out there to even inspect it because it was so it wasn't safe. We got some other ones I wanted to share with you here. A metal roof here, talking about that. Now here's a good example of what you were saying about getting them off the roof. But then look here. I mean, now there's nothing over here on this one. What do you think caused that rusting to occur? Because it's on the other side of that one we just saw, the other side of the house.
Just unless they had something inside that was heating up or cooling something down and changing the metal surface on there. That's a hard one to guess on.
Well, that's a good point, because this was a garage. This was an automobile garage where they worked on cars. Mm-hmm. And so I bet they maybe had a heater or something.
Had a heater or furnace or wood stove or something in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what else we got here? All right. I think that probably pretty good on all of my metal roofs. So let's move over here while we're on the roofing here, let's move over here to some coatings that we sometimes see. Yeah, here we go. Now we got, here's a good one, a coating here. What's this one right here? So tell folks, this is a coating of some sort, but I see it looks like two different kinds of coatings, the tar. And then whatever this is underneath, is that a paint?
It gets applied like a paint, but what we find too in a lot of these roofs is that the building owner or the contractor will try a bunch of different things to see if it works. Just throwing it up against the wall, see if it sticks. But typically they'll start with the black tar, and you go around and patch it. They come out with some of the different silicone coatings, and so people will try to use those, get up there and coat them as well. You can see where it's all cracking and everything, and the application wasn't done right. It was either put on too thick or they didn't clean up underneath there very well. It's a process to get to the point where you can actually apply the coating. You can't just go up there and coat it. You have to clean the roof off. You have to make sure it's dry. You have to get it primed. We have a product we call BleedTrap that keeps the asphalt from discoloring the top coat. So there's a lot that goes underneath that coating before you coat it. Your coating's the finished part of it.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good to know. And in this case, actually, in their defense, these folks here, and you looked at this one too. Actually, this was the food pantry down in the inner city, in that old building. It's well over 100 some years old.
Sure.
And then people are doing their best to help us out there and help to feed the poor. So they didn't have a lot of money, and I could see why they kind of doctored it up. But still,
well, the coating's a good fix for a roof. Mm-hmm. It really is. It's if you can take an old roof and coat over top of that surface, you're saving tearing off a roof, and you're gaining another 10, 15 years out of your roof.
I recommend coating all the time, but sometimes, and I kind of wanted to talk about that when we see some of these other pictures. I wonder if I'm really giving them good advice. And so we'll talk about that, because I worry about that. Well, now we'll move over here to a little bit about this picture right here, if we could. And that looks, it's a roll roofing type material, but tell a little bit about what's happening with this one, the type of material it is, and how long it even lasts.
That's they call that a modified bitumen torch down roof, where they actually heat up the rolls and when they heat it up then to the hot tar, it actually adheres to the layer below it. It's a good product. It's been around for a long time. It's the rolled roofing. We're kind of dating ourselves because they don't have rolled roofing anymore. It's all come back to this modified bit, and even what we consider a mod bit now is a self-adhering that they use on residential. It looks like a rolled roofing, but it's actually self-adhering. This product, it's a mod bit or modified bitumen that's actually applied with a torch.
So what's happening along this parapet wall? You see where the black is, and it looks like we've been patched up. Is that just all a bunch of tar?
It's tar. It's a layer below it. Somebody's been up there just trying to keep that building dry, just adding stuff to it.
Yeah.
But underneath there, when you heat these roofs up, it gets it's a black tar that you're heating up that goes down, and that's part of it as well. Maybe it peeled off or
okay.
so.
Now we was talking about coating. Can these be coated?
As long as there's not a lot of moisture inside of that roof, you can coat it.
And how would you know? I know you did. You know how, but tell the folks how you know that.
Yeah, we use a moisture meter. We'll go around, and the moisture meter will actually read down 1.5 inches. So that'll get your top layers, your insulation board, and your roofing. And anything below that, if you're picking up moisture at 1.5 inches, then you should know that roof is wet. We started with the coating industry. We were doing power washing to get these roofs off, and now we switched over to a power broom, where we're not pushing the water into the roof. We use a power broom, and it just goes across the roof surface, cleans all the stuff off there. Saves us 2-3 days of drying time. Plus, we're not adding extra water into the roof if you got an issue with it.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, because I know a lot of the guys are still out there. You have power washing.
Yeah, and you can on some instances. Like a metal roof, we like to power wash.
Right.
But when you get into a mod bit roof, if you get too close with your power wash, you're actually pushing that water into that roof, and you got to let it dry out. So we tested with that. We'll also come back with an infrared camera and shoot it at nighttime, and it'll pick up the different wet spots on top of that roof.
Yeah. Well, and what type your moisture detector? Is that do you have to cut into the roof or anything, or is this
No,
something
the one we have
non-intrusive?
it's a non-invasive one. Some of the moisture meters have a dual probe that will push into the surface. You'll see it they use it for drywall and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the one that we've got is it's non-invasive. So you just lay it on the surface and it reads up underneath there, down 1.5 inches. And you could use it on walls as well. So
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
So it would be able to tell me what's behind my wall.
Moisture-wise, yeah.
So if I got, I know this is roofs, but if I got a finished drywall basement,
sure,
that would tell me what's moisture.
Yeah. That'll tell you the moisture level.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, when I get out of here, I'm getting me one of them. That sounds like a good tester.
Yeah, they're not cheap. I think the one we bought was $600 or $700 just for a little. It's about the size of a little portable radio.
Well, but worth every penny of that. You
Absolutely.
gotta know. Well, let's move over here to this one, down to this picture here, and there once again. I know you've been on this, and the old warehouse is the other
that's loading dock there.
Yeah, you was there, and now what I want to talk about is, hey, you could see that they had some sort of flashing going up the wall, and there's nothing there now. So what could we tell the folks that could be recommended to, besides just replace it?
On that particular wall roof, when you're going back up to a building like that, typically what we're finding is just where they use a black tar or black caulk to seal the top edge, and you really want to get that edge sealed, and you want a counterflashing to come down over top of that. So if it does get moisture in there or rain on there, it'll run over your counterflashing and down the roof instead of back behind it. To do that, you got to cut across your brick. Find a mortar joint there and just cut a straight line on there. tuck it in. It's quite a process. It's not a cheap process.
You know, I'm glad that you said that about cutting into counterflashing, because I cannot tell you how many roofs I see out
see
there.
them all the time.
Yes, and actually, so we was doing a talk about, because you know I do expert witnessing in court, and so we was discussing that in a court case, and the attorney asked me, he says, well, is it this common? And I said, common doesn't make it right. You know, I mean,
Right.
and he said, well, what's the problem? I was trying to explain. Well, one is going to last you a lot longer than the other one's going to be misleading, and you won't know when it pops. So it's kind of like that one we saw here a little bit ago with with the copper, that was coming away from the roof.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just, if your caulk is just a temporary, it wears out before the roof does. Mm-hmm. So if you're relying on caulk and that's what you're going to use up there, then you need to get up there at least once a year and look at it. Look up, see if it's pulling away from the wall. I like to go in and cut in the counterflashing, and then you got a good product.
Well, that's just because you're old school, Rick.
Well,
you was taught to do it right the first time.
Do it right, then I don't have to come back. It's expensive to go back.
Oh yeah, but and not to
If you do a
mention
roof
people
and-
they're
if
mad
you do
at
a
you.
roof and it leaks, and it costs you a lot of money to go back on. If you do them right, it costs you a little bit of money up front, but you don't have to go back.
Right. Yeah, it's actually a good investment to do it right. But that's how we was taught. Well, let's walk over here while we're still on this here bit modified roof here, and this is same warehousing. Of course, there was 3 different buildings, a huge warehouse down right on the Mississippi River. If you folks look over to the right of this picture, you could see the boats out there. You can see actually it's really beautiful out there. But the railroad tracks going along. But I didn't want to talk about that. I wanted to talk about this the storage up building right there, and the flashing that they used up against this metal building, and talk about what you think about that, and what would you recommend would be best, because this was a weak spot in this roof, and there was problems in the structure when I went down there and checked under the structure. So what would you recommend? Talk about that.
Yeah, it's been leaking for a long time. So, one, I would look on top of that structure, see how it's covered. Sometimes you can extend the roof out, get to where the water's running away from the building instead of running down the walls.
Good overhang on the roof.
Like an overhang, foot overhang or so.
That's a great idea.
If you can get that, again, you're back in your flashing, counterflashing. You have to seal that where that building meets that roof. You have to seal that transition point there, and it's that's where you want to get somebody in there that knows what they're doing. Somebody's going to go in and not just put flashing or caulk on there, but put the flashing and counterflashing and some caulk as well.
So when you're buying a building and you see this, folks, this is where you want to take your eyeballs and get down there and check underneath the substructure of this and around the perimeter of this, because it's a weak spot. And Rick give you some great ideas on how to correct it. But you want to know it's been leaked, like Rick said.
Well, this is where I would bring you in to tell me what you saw, that you could see the problem. That's where we would bring Galloway's building services in there to identify the problem. That's where you crawl around up in the attic and you're looking at all that stuff, and you're up inside of the bar joist and looking at the ceiling where we're on top of the roof. We don't necessarily get inside the building like you do, but I would bring you in on something like that to tell me and the owner of the building what you think we need to do, or at least identify the problem.
Mm-hmm. And I think I always appreciate that when you do that. We make a good team when we work together with that. But hey, folks, I want to share with this picture right here. And you was talking about the brick and the counter flashing. Here's a perfect example where they just tarred it up.
Yeah.
I don't see any now. I don't see any counter flashing on that. That's not snow on that roof. That's
it's just tar and coating and anything they could think of to try to keep it from leaking. But you could spend that'll work for a little while, But, if you're wanting a permanent fix in there, you want to flash it and counterflash it.
If you want to keep your maintenance man busy, he can go up there every few months and check it out. In this case here, they're once again the same warehouse because you can see the storage shed on the back there, which was a great picture. You was talking about having the overhang. There's no overhang on that roof on that storage area back there we was just on. But this was this chimney area once again. This was where it was all damaged underneath the structure and the substrate and everything.
A lot of times too, Troy, we'll look at these chimneys, and if they're abandoned, take them out.
I was just telling some folks that the other day. It's a house inspection, but I told them that chimney's not doing nothing. Get rid of it.
Get rid of it. It's just one less thing going through your roof. Mm-hmm. One less thing that's going to leak. But you have to be careful too, because the old buildings, they'll take the new equipment and they'll run like your gas furnaces and stuff and your hot water heaters. They'll ventilate through the old chimneys. They'll use those, so you have to really be careful. But if it were mine, and that chimney didn't have any function, I would get rid of it.
I agree. Why would you want to have an extra opportunity for moisture penetration?
Yes,
we want to run our business. We don't have time to be fooling around no dadgum roofs, Mm-hmm. And we don't want to keep a maintenance man busy. I was teasing about that. Mm-hmm. Right. But hey, let's move over to this picture over here where we actually got a combination of things happening. But what we have is we're going to call it a repair. But what do you think about that? It looks like a water catcher to me. And actually, by looking at my water stains, it is a water catcher, damming up the water.
Yeah, they're catching a bunch of water there. And when you get them on a metal building there where the siding's coming down, the flashing goes a little bit different. Instead of going on the outside of it, you tuck it up behind it.
Right.
Bring that up behind it, and then it becomes a counterflashing. But it's going to run down the wall and down the counterflashing onto the roof. Right there, they've had a leak here for a long time. You can see where the water's been ponding up. So it's the old roof pitch. Go up there and just put as much more roof pitch on there, and when that fails, put some more on it. But the proper way is just really when you get in a low spot like that, so just tear out what you have there and then come back with new.
Well, heck, guess what's so bad? That if they keep it up, I think if you stumbled across there in the dark, you'd trip and break your ankle.
Yeah.
But hey, talk about water damming. Oh, I got a good one here I want to share with you. And you was just on this one a few weeks ago. And but here's another patch job right over here before we get over to the water damming. And now it looks like I got two different types of materials going on, or is it just a patch on top of a patch?
Well, you probably got a modified bit roof on there. Then it looks like they did like a LumiCoat on there, the aluminum paint on top of the existing roof. And then you've got some of the probably a self-adhering modified bit roof. They try to use it as a patch, and then they sealed it in with a roof pitch. So most of the time that doesn't work.
Well, and right there is a good example.
Yeah. Most of the time you get up there and it's just not working. It's trying to fix a problem, but not trying to fix it the way it really needs to get fixed.
Yeah, and speaking of that, now come over here. Let's look at that same roof, same warehouse, and now look at that. Now, if then this picture's blown up, this is there is so many humps and bellies in this thing. It looks like an ocean.
Looks like a moonscape.
That's that aluminum coat stuff again, isn't it? Yeah. Now, does that stuff get brittle and not adhere correctly? What the heck's the deal with that?
You get a little bit, it'll seal up a little bit, but...
Isn't that more for mobile homes or trailers or something?
I think so. I think it is, but we see it on a lot of commercial buildings, a lot of the mod bit roofs, where they'll go over that aluminum paint. I don't see the advantage to that. Maybe back in the day it was okay, but there's a lot better products, and they still sell it. They still sell aluminum paint. So.
Yeah, and I honestly never thought that until we started doing a lot of commercial buildings a few years ago, I always thought that aluminum paint was honestly for mobile homes, or for your metal roof, but I never dreamed it. But I always wondered if that didn't cause some of the trouble for the warping and of the material.
It might be hiding something underneath there. Put a fresh coat of paint on there. It looks good.
Yeah.
So
Till the check clears the
you're
bank,
kind
huh?
of hiding your problem. So
I wanted to share this other one up here with you here. And this is one of them roofs, bit modified roofs. And see, and I got that hump right there. What causes this, and is this something to be worried about?
it is. It's a tip. Sometimes there's moisture to get in that roof, and it can either be the moisture as the roof is curing, or you can have a chemical reaction between the two roofs, and it'll create a steam as it's curing. And that's what you end up with, a bubble like that. So that big hump you're seeing there, it's all hollow. It's a big bubble.
Yeah. So it is something to be concerned about.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gonna, it's not the way it's supposed to be. It needs to be laying flat.
Well, we're going to see a bunch of others here, some others that are really that way. But I want to move over here to some of these other types of roof systems here, and let's jump down here. We'll go to flashings here when we're done. And here, that's what I guess they started painting on this one. And actually, this is a shelter for. Oh, this was a cool one. This is a neat old building. Actually, it was a shelter for unwed mothers. But what I found on it when I was up there, which I really wanted to look for that picture, a bullet. It's in such a neighborhood down there that I found a live bullet. Just the bullet, not the round itself, where they were just shooting up and the bullet landed. And then we had another one that was stuck right in the roof.
Yeah, I have a jar of bullets.
Do you really?
I do. Yeah.
Oh my stars!
We've taken them out of roofs where they just go down, they stick in the roof.
That's fun. Well, it's not funny, but it's funny. We talk about now. Let's get into some of these more rubberized roofs here. Now, this is this picture and this picture. If I don't know if you folks can see that, but now that looks like a pretty good job right there. What do you think?
It does. I think is that a TPO roof there?
It's a white TPO roof.
Right. That's a good product. TPO's been around a long time. It's got to be put down correctly, though. The devil's in the details on your commercial roofs. If you get your drains right and anything coming up out of the roof, get those sealed off. Get your electrical lines. Make sure you got pitch pots in there that are installed correctly. All your parapet walls are all done up right, and it makes a great roof. And you can get a 15-20-year warranty on these roofs that comes directly from the manufacturer. So I like the TPO. It's a little bit harder to manipulate sometimes when you're trying to bend it and going around things. But if you have a good skilled crew, then they can install a nice TPO roof.
Well, this one I really liked. I thought they did a great job on it. It's a big factory / warehouse, both up there, and this one was. But I wanted to share some of.
Go to this one here.
You want to go? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's an EPDM roof. That's your black rubber. Kind of looks like the inner tube material. EPDM is a nice product as well. It's a little bit more flexible than the TPO. But it's on both of these, if you have an issue with that roof, you can just do an external patch over top of it. You get a branch or something, pokes a hole in it, you can put a patch on it, like an inner tube patch.
Now, does it have what's the warranty versus the TPO?
You'll get the same out of there. The EPDM just a little bit cheaper roof, cost-wise.
Is it really?
Yeah, but they're real close. When I say cheaper, it might be 5%.
But not a lot of disadvantages or advantages one way or the other.
The TPO roof being a white roof, you're just going to have a lot more reflectivity. Mm-hmm. Cool your building down some. With the black roof, with the EPDM roof, it's going to absorb some of that heat.
So I guess it depends on what part of the country you're in.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're in a hot part of because it's going all over the United States here, this show. So if you're a northern, you might like that, the darker roof, or south, or where we're at in the Midwest, the white roofs really save a ton of money.
They do.
You know, that actually, that 5% would be offset by the energy cost. Of course, I don't sell them, so I mean, I'm just, but yeah, that. But when let's go to the TPO here, because I got a perfect example of, and you've been on this one too. Okay, and this was over there on that big job down there in the industrial park. We don't want to say the address, but you know, but as far as now, there's a couple of things happen. We'll start with this picture right here, and I wanted to visit with this picture. We got the swimming pools. Now I think we did this in February when I inspected it, and I got a few things happening with it. You can see my, you know, this is warping up right here, and then my water standing. And talk to us about, and of course, I think we had substrate issues with this one here, didn't we? So talk to us about what was going on with that one, because you got firsthand information on that one.
Yeah, when you start getting your ponding areas where it's holding the water on there, it's the substrate underneath there is deteriorating. You might have a leak in there where it gets up underneath that insulation and just wears out the insulation. It wears out, the roof sinks and creates a pocket like this that catches the water. We call that ponding. And really, you can fix that by peeling back the roof, replacing the insulation, and building it up a little bit, and laying it back over. So.
And you see right around the perimeter of this front area here where it's just stretched out. And is this a common practice? Because it's nothing underneath it.
Now, you see it. It shouldn't be a common practice, but it should be solid underneath your roof. You shouldn't have any hollow. And I found that all over that roof, that all the way around the perimeter, that there was nothing underneath the roof itself. Like you said, it was stretched real tight.
Well, I want to show you the one that I did on a car wash, and they stretched that real tight, and the results of that were this.
Yeah.
And look at that. I mean, of course, it looked like a pretty good job on the parapet wall, but do you think it was just because it was so tight that snow, or do you think a combination of both, improperly installed naturally, but not up on the parapet wall, right? And
it could be a combination of both. And then, you know, if it was hollow underneath at the base of the parapet wall, and you get some ice and water up there, it just sits on that roof, it's going to push it down. Eventually just pull that out.
Yeah. Well, now, can this be repaired?
That's a tough one. You might be able to repair that.
Okay.
It depends if it's a fully adhered or system, or if it's just a perimeter adhered as well.
Reason I like to bring that up, Rick, is because we get a lot of these roofers that come over, and in order to get the job, they'll sell it dirt cheap, and they'll halfway do it. I mean, and then the customers, they only see dollar signs. They don't understand the importance. And I understand dollars. If you don't have the money to pay for it, you don't got the money to pay for it. You got to do what you got to do. But on the same token, these folks don't understand the difference, and that's why I'm glad you shared that with them, so they know.
You have to weigh, your cost against your products. I always tell my customers that we're not necessarily the cheapest roofer in town. I don't want to be the cheapest roofer in town. But we're on the high mid-range is where I like to be. For one, if a lot of these roofs too, where people will get up and they want to negotiate the roofer down, and they're going to beat you up on price, and that's the kind of stuff that happens.
And then they hold it against you.
Sure, they're going to come out. It's when you get down to the bottom line that this guy was $10,000 less, or whatever the numbers are, and they whittle your numbers down. Then now you got a contractor out there that's not happy because he's making less money on it, and I think sometimes this is what your final products ends up being.
Yeah, actually, I believe that happens every time. I want to see if I can find this other one here, and you was just up on this one recently. Oh yeah. Now I want to show you folks here one that we call a swimming pool on the roof. And now this is when I was up there. I imagine it was still sitting up there when you was up there, but what the heck? When you got up on that roof, how bad did you think that was on this one here? I mean, that the whole build, we had the TPO back here behind that next level, but
yeah. That's a lot of water, a lot of weight. You know, what's a gallon of water weigh? 11 pounds.
Well, 8.8. I heard
So-
8.89 pounds per
Well,
gallon.
and then however many gallons that is.
That's a lot.
Just sitting there. That's a lot of dead weight. And when water sits too, it finds its way in. It finds a weak spot and it works its way in, or it'll create a weak spot.
Kind of reminds you of a politician when he's in there trying to raise your taxes.
Yeah. But this is something, you know, that might even go back to the original design of the building. You know, does the roof have enough fall on it?
Yeah.
Is it falling towards the gutters? Do you have?
Well, in this case here, if you remember right,
Yeah,
they did have a good pitch,
Yeah,
but at the end it humped back up.
it came right back up. Exactly.
So they made a dam at the end of they literally designed it, or however it was done, with a dam at the end of it.
Yep.
And
That's what you get.
yeah, and then if you look in the center in there, you see now that's a vent, or that's not a vent right here. That little teepee thing coming up there, that actually in this particular building was drains that went into the attic and out the back, and then through the attic wall, and then out the back.
Yeah.
And which we got some pictures of some others where it's knocked off, and every one of them things are leaking. Well, like you said,
Sure.
literally the water's going to find its way, and you wonder how clogged that thing is. You know, bad. But I don't know if he ever. By the time we get this show aired, he probably has already bought it or turned it down. I don't know, because it was just a recent one that we was on. But I want to share with this one here. This same house, same building, or groups of building. It was a strip mall, and so what's how I see we got two different type materials again, or I mean what? One was smooth, one is not. One's black, one's gray white.
Yeah. When you're It again, it's just somebody's trying to patch something in. The only issue that you'd have with this is once you apply silicone, you have to stay with silicone. Nothing sticks to silicone but silicone. So if you're going to come back over top of that white streak on there with some other product, it's not going to stick to it. So, you know, if the owner's ready to go to the silicone, or if they're going to go to silicone in the future, there's nothing wrong with using that. That something like that should have been an EPDM patch. They make material that it adheres to the EPDM. It's an EPDM product, and it's like a tape. You peel it up and you fix your crack with EPDM.
Now, is EPDM roofing? Does it only come in 10-foot sections, 8-foot sections, or does it come in different widths?
You can get the repair tape. It's 6 inches or a foot.
Okay.
You know, and it might be 50 feet in a roll, or I'm not sure how long it is, but on the material itself, you're 10, 15, and 20.
Okay.
Or 10, 12, and 15, but it's
the less seams, the better, folks.
Roll. Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
everybody's happier. Well, let's move over to. It kind of we've hit some of these on the different roofs and everything, and I don't want to make. We could literally be here for hours, so I'm gonna move us along here a little bit.
I think only you and I could talk about roofs for hours.
I know,
so.
construction nerds. but you know, if you don't hire somebody with a passion for the job, then you don't have the guy that you're doing the job. But let's move over here to these parapet walls, because we see this on a lot of older buildings more than any of them, but we still see some on the new buildings, strip malls and such. But look at this one here and how the debris. You know, talk about how the weight and and what's happening and what to beware of and what could beware of underneath it that you don't see.
If you don't get that stuff off there, you're going to have a problem. It's going to freeze. It's going to sit up there as a big ice cube in the wintertime. You can see where all the wrinkles in the parapet wall. That was probably could have been corrected during the initial installation. But you want to. That's part of where our service too. When we coat a roof or we install a roof, we always offer them to come back twice a year. And we'll come up there, we'll clean drains off, we'll clean up underneath the parapet walls and get rid of all that debris that's on the roof. But that's something that the building owners should do that at least twice a year. Hit it in the spring and hit it in the fall, minimum.
Well, not to mention, we talk about the weight of the water, and now I got a sponge.
Yeah.
I mean, I got the weight of the material, plus I got the weight of the water. It's just compounding here. So yeah, I want to see.
And then even to get that off, you know, you have to be careful to get it off. Somebody's not going to gouge or tear your roof getting the material off the roof.
Right.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah,
so-
yeah. So you don't really want a handyman doing it.
Yeah, you want to hire somebody. You want to bring somebody in there that knows roofs. Hopefully hire us.
Right,
You know,
Eureka Roofing,
But,
right.
you know, they come out there, like I said earlier, just come out a couple times a year. Should be up on that roof and, you know, clean your drain, clean your parapet walls, check everything up, touch up as needed, and then it'll extend the life of your roof.
All right. So while we're on the parapet walls, I wanted to talk about these caps up here, these clay tile caps, and to tell the folks how they work, and is this actually working, and can we even buy caps anymore?
You can buy them. They've got them if down in the city. You can go to them, but there's a lot of too. But the same thing where they tear these buildings down, and they'll have stacks of these cap. Yeah, it's a good product. You know, they've been around for a long time. There's a mortar with some glue mixed into it. When they lay it down, they stick it on top. It's a good product. The one you've got there looks like it's been cracked, probably moved a couple times, and you know, it gets cracked. So they get back there at the roof pitch and try to seal it in. And if you can seal it in, it's not too bad of a fix, but it's not the 100%. You really, if you can have the money to replace the caps, it's a good thing to do too.
Well, that kind of really hits a lot of the major roofs that we have out there.
It does.
And I know we could talk more about, and let's do another show here in the future about stuff like what do we do, and talk about how we attend with you, not we, because I don't do the work, but how do you attend to how you move in the air handlers and the gas lines, and how to when we can. Because we need to do a part 2 sometime on
Sure.
this. But well, thank you very much, Rick, for joining us here today, and I want to thank Joey for taking his time and getting us all set up. And real quick before we wrap this up here, give them your phone number. I know they can see it on your shirt, but tell them how to find you.
Sure. It's Eureka Contracting and Roofing. You can give us a call at our office, 8 to 5. We're at 636-938-ROOF or 636-938-7663. You can also reach us on the website at www.eurekacontracting.com. And my personal email is rick@eurekacontracting.com.
That's awesome, and you can reach us for any kind of building inspections. We do not just building inspections, but we also do expert witnessing for court. If you ever have a construction issue, we work with several other professionals, such as Rick, when we have to bring in a crew, so a team of people. We also do building inspections, so while you're in the middle of the building, you know, that we could come in and do the inspections, and then we can even bring in third parties like Rick and other professionals if we have a concern. So give us a call for that too, Galloway Building Services. And our phone number, I'm going to give you the office, is 636-394-3112. And my personal cell phone, 314-520-6655. And you can find us out there on Instagram. You can find us on Rumble, YouTube. We're all over the place, Facebook. And you get us on our webpage, www.gallowaybuildingservices.com. All right. Well, thank you, folks. Appreciate you taking your time. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Joey. And that's a wrap.
Thank you.